This is the Undefeated Podcast with your host, Keenan Tully. This is the place where we show that hearing loss is not going to be a barrier in your life. You can still chase all of your dreams no matter what. It hasn't stopped me. Don't let it stop you. Let's go.
So I think if maybe you want to go ahead and kind of give an overview of what BLUEMOTH Hearing is for the people that, are just tuning into this and maybe don't exactly know what BLUEMOTH Hearing is, but they've seen it posted around and
Totally.
they kind of want to get more of an understanding of what it is.
Yeah.
And how it works.
Totally, 100%. So BLUEMOTH is a completely new model of distribution that pretty much marries the empowerment for the consumer to be a part of the hearing healthcare process. We have them send in their prescription, so their hearing test results. We review those, make clinical recommendations. We're available for consultation beforehand. A lot of people have questions, especially because this is such a new way of doing things, to understand exactly, what all's included, how does it work, what to expect. Yeah, and then we send 3 different sets of premium prescription technology, and they get
awesome
they have little test tubes within, and they get to test drive 3 different sets of technology. And what's been so amazing about this, Keenan, is that even with over a decade of experience, there's such a subjective component. We all have a different way that we like to hear and perceive our world. And so this allows people to actually get the ability to try different technologies, see which one works best for them, feels better, sounds better, etc., before committing to a purchase. So it's just a very different method of getting hearing technology. It's a lot more playful and fun and interactive as well.
Yeah. And it's also like, if you think about when you go to a opticians to go and get glasses, people are there trying out different types of glasses. You can't really, up until now, you can't really do that with hearing aids. So BLUEMOTH really allows you to be able to do that, see which ones work best for you, because everyone is different. Everyone feels different things. Everyone hears differently, hears different things. And, they have
different priorities. For some people, one might sound better, but the physical comfort is better with another, and that's a higher priority level to them. Some people, they're constantly streaming. I have a girlfriend who's a realtor, so she's on the phone all the time. So she made her selection based on which devices had the most, seamless Bluetooth pairing process. All of the hearing aids are top notch, but they have their own special nuances or where they really shine. So it allows the person to be able to choose based on what's most important in their life.
Yeah. Just touch on that quickly for people that might be wondering, like, what kind of differences in the different hearing aids and different technology between those different types of hearing aids are there, essentially?
Yeah, so each hearing aid manufacturer really has their areas that they shine. Some brands really focus on new users, and so they want to make sure that it's a very comfortable sound and that, nothing's too jarring or bright, and that it's just a really kind of like easy peasy situation.
User-friendly.
There's other manufacturers that really are for audiophiles or for people who are musicians or really want to hear every single nuanced sound, even though that might be a little bit more potentially abrasive or harsh or robust than the other. They all kind of have their fortes and their strengths, but all of them are top notch. All of them have great noise reduction features, because that's one of the biggest complaints that we get with new, hearing tech wares is I do okay one-on-one and quiet, but it's when I go to a noisy restaurant, bar, party, etc., that things really start to fall apart. So the sophistication of that feature is really robust within many of them, but they all function in different ways.
Yeah. And so one question that some people might have is obviously because BLUEMOTH is primarily virtual and at home, how is the follow-up care, the actual hearing healthcare you receive? Like, how does that compare to going into a audiologist's office? Because I think some people might, want to know if it's better care, if it's the same. How does it kind of compare?
Totally. Yeah, that's a great question. So there's pros and cons to every single method, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain things that you just can't do remotely or virtually. So for example, there was a customer recently who really needed custom ear molds. So a custom fit for the end of his devices to go in his ear. That would give him the best sound quality, give him the best, amplification, best retention, etc. And so, he did need to go back into a traditional audiologist locally to have that impression made. And then we ordered him the ear molds. So there are certain limitations. However, another patient who I saw yesterday, I love this guy. He's just so much fun. But he lives in rural Colorado. His closest audiologist is 35 minutes away, right? So you've got an hour 10 just traffic. Then most appointments are going to be about 30 minutes. He and I were able to fix his problem in less than 5 minutes. And then we spent the other 10 chit-chatting about Thanksgiving. So, if it's something simple like, a quick tweaking or an adjustment, or sometimes hearing aids will have feedback, which is some squealing sounds. Those are things that we can navigate and mitigate really quickly with a virtual session just like this. You know what I mean? We'll go through the software. I get to see you. You get to see me. I get to connect to your hearing aids. You tell me what transitions that you want. I make sure that they're audiologically appropriate. I send them to you. Boom. There you go. So to save this man basically, close to 2 hours of his day for something that really only needed 3 minutes of connectivity time. That's a huge savings. And he's an experienced wearer. He's worn hearing aids for over 8 years. So he's very, knowledgeable of the process. And so for him, it was massive convenience. We are finding that especially for persons who live in more remote areas, this is a true godsend because of the ability to have that convenience and flexibility right away.
Right. Yeah. And then also, most people work as well. So trying to find time out of your days, or, maybe even having to take time away from work, that can be quite a big thing if you're having to drive an hour.
Sure. Yeah.
And then,
100%.
So that could be 2 hours, 3 hours, so.
So much for new users is that initial consultation, asking a lot of questions, getting a really good understanding, explaining their hearing test results, the pros and cons of different methods, what's the best recommendations. Those are really convenient to be able to do, from the ease of home or wherever. Another group that's finding a lot of benefit with BLUEMOTH are persons in assisted living facilities, because often there's transportation difficulties to get to medical appointments. And so with the help of the staff or a certified nurse, registered nurse assistant, they can log on to their sessions, and that's a huge benefit as well. So we're finding that a lot of people are really liking the flexibility and ease of a telehealth remote care model.
And do you feel like that has gotten more popular since, say, like COVID-19 in the last few years? And then also, do you see remote telehealth hearing healthcare growing as well since COVID, and since telehealth has gotten so much more popular? Do you see it being do you see it growing on the hearing healthcare side as well?
I think it should, obviously. I mean,
that's
it's interesting,
but it's just interesting that BLUEMOTH are kind of the first people to really do it, and there hasn't really been much else out there for it. So I'm just interested if it's also going to grow in other areas as well.
I think it's definitely going to grow. And what's been interesting, Keenan, is that a lot of the manufacturers were starting to have remote care capabilities before 2020. And it was but many people weren't, and many people, I mean, like audiologists and hearing instrument specialists, weren't really clinging to it. They weren't really attracted to it. They were really stuck kind of in the more traditional method and the methodology. And 2020 definitely, I think, kickstarted the telehealth revolution for not just audiology, but for so many things. One company that I have a lot of respect for is BetterHelp. It's a mental health company that's fully telehealth. And I know that during 2020, they really spiked, and a lot of companies moved into this transition of being able to provide more accessibility and care. There's obviously limitations to telehealth models. I don't get to actually see your devices up close and personal, but it's so close that so much can be accomplished. What's also really wonderful is that our team is really transparent about when we've reached a limitation. So for example, that one person, it's like, okay, well, we are going to need you to go back. This is exactly what we need you to get and do. And we'll be able to continue to help from there. So it's really working quite collaboratively with local providers as well.
So obviously I've used BLUEMOTH before and received the box, which I absolutely love. And I have my own story with it. But what are some other success stories that you've had from other customers who were maybe skeptical at first about wearing hearing aids, and then they received the box and then realized, like, wow, this is just what I needed?
I would say, I mean, like the two biggest areas where I feel like we're seeing things, in our first year launch to market is either consumers who have worn hearing aids before, are experienced users, they're very comfortable with the process, but they want to try something new, they want to try something different, and have never been afforded or allowed the opportunity to really be a part of the trial or selection process. That's one big area that are loving it. And it's very empowering for them. It's very fun for them. They know pretty much right away which one they prefer. So that's one big area. But then the other is, I think the experience box is a really phenomenal way for those persons who they may have some suspicion that they have hearing loss, or someone's commented on it, maybe a spouse or a coworker or a child, and they're just not sure, or they have the question like, well, is my hearing loss bad enough? Or is the hearing aid going to make that much of a difference? It's a really nice way to be able to dip your toe in the water to see. And almost every single one of those people that has come forward and said, well, I'm just not sure. And it's like, well, just try them and see.
Try it.
The proof's going to be in the pudding or it's not. Almost always they're like, oh my gosh, I did not realize that my hearing loss was this bad. I had no clue. I didn't realize how much I was missing. Like my life is so much easier and better. I'm not having to strain or work so hard to have conversations. So pretty much all of them, as soon as they'd had the moment to be able to test drive, it was like, whoa, I want to dive right in.
Yeah. It's funny how that works with hearing loss, how people who try a set of hearing aids don't realize how much hearing loss they actually had. I wonder why that is. Is it just a getting used to it type of thing? Like,
well,
is it?
For most people, hearing loss is so insidious. So it just really creeps up on you in a very slow manner. So I think that's one aspect to it. Two, I think that there's still, as you and I continue to work on with both of our brands, Undefeated and BLUEMOTH, there's still that stigma, you know what I mean? And it shouldn't be there. You and I know, we see people all the time of every single age, every single variety, can have varying degrees of hearing loss that can be easily treated and live a really beautiful, profound life. You know what I mean? And you and I see that it's no different than wearing glasses or contacts. But I do think that because that stigma is still there, it takes people a little bit longer, even when they have that initial suspicion, they kind of put it off longer than they should. But there was a woman, I was actually in clinic yesterday at one of my, traditional audiology clinics. And it was funny because I was writing my quick chart notes before bringing back the next person. And I heard her just saying like, oh my gosh, these have completely changed my life. Like I didn't even know I had a problem until my son kept, picking on me and I came in to prove him wrong. Cause she's young, she's 48 years old. She's like, I came in to prove my son wrong, that I was perfectly normal and I had no hearing loss. And she did. And it wasn't profound. It wasn't significant. I mean, she had a more mild loss, but she did move forward with technology. And I mean, she said that in her first month of wearing them, even when she took them out, she would get so emotional taking them out because it was so profound to her how different her life was with and without the hearing technology. And she was just so grateful. I mean, she was just bubbly and cute, and so just grateful for the experience. So,
Yep. Awesome. I love that. Yeah. So for people that, you know, wanting to dip their toe in, a bit curious, how is the process to actually get started with BLUEMOTH? How does it actually work? Like, how, you know, for people that are a bit worried about getting started or what they might have to do, how does it actually work from day one?
Totally. So I think one of the best things to do is to hop on BLUEMOTHhearing.com. And if you scroll down to the very bottom in the footer, there's a schedule consultation. And it's a free consultation appointment to speak with one of our audiologists. And this is where you can really, you know, start the process, address any questions that you might have, any fears, worries, concerns, and then learn too about what to expect, because a lot of people will reach out to us before they've even ever gotten their baseline hearing test, because they don't necessarily know, well, where do I go? Will my insurance cover it? What questions should I ask the clinician? What will I need to do? What will happen during that appointment? And so we essentially prime them and we let them know what to expect during that session. But we will ultimately need a hearing test. Sometimes we've had patients, you know, move forward, go get a hearing test. They send us a copy and we get to virtually high five each other because their hearing is perfectly normal. And so it's like, you know, this isn't something that you even need to worry about at this time. Like, your hearing is perfect. You're great. Let's continue to do, you know, routine follow-ups to make sure that it stays that way. And then we talk about hearing protection, et cetera. But we do walk them through, you know, where to go to get a hearing test, et cetera. And then they get their hearing test done. They send us a copy of their hearing test results. We typically then will either do email exchange or hop on another consultation call, depending on their preference and time, to talk about the hearing loss, answer any questions that they have, and then make treatment recommendations. And at that point, typically what we'll do is move forward with the experience box. Some people say, well, I want you to use your clinical judgment or pick the one that you think is going to be the best for me based on my lifestyle and my hearing loss. And they just order the devices. But most people really like BLUEMOTH because of the experience box. So we program each of those 3 premium prescription sets of devices for their specific hearing loss. And then we send it to them. We send that box, they get to open it, and then there's a QR code on the top that walks them through exactly how to trial and assess each of the 3 sets. And then from there, they can utilize that cost for the experience box towards their purchase of whichever technology they prefer.
Hearing aids, that's awesome. So it's not then a second added on cost, it's all included together. So that's awesome. Yeah. And I also think...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, sorry.
No, and then, you know, it doesn't stop there, as you know, because you've worn hearing aids for so long. It's not one of those things like glasses or contacts where you pick the one you want and then you don't see the provider again. Typically, there's quite a few adjustments or tweaks that we need to make. So we typically will hop on a virtual telehealth adjustment appointment shortly after they get the devices, make sure that they're doing well. Make sure that they're putting them in properly, not having any concerns there, that the physicality and the acoustics are proper. And then for the life of the devices, anytime they need tweaks, adjustments, etc., it's just as easy as scheduling a consultation or a telehealth appointment with us again.
And that's very key as well. I mean, especially in today's world, everyone is so busy and convenience is absolutely key. You know,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, I mean, that first kind of consultation that you can set up, I think that's also extremely key, because that could be the difference between someone going into a audiologist and getting a hearing test or not. You know, if people are, you know, have reservations about getting a hearing test or getting hearing aids, if they can actually sit and speak to someone about it first, that could be the difference between someone actually going through with it or not. So
I think one of the things that a lot of people really appreciate too is that, there's an expectation that's set ahead of time. Like we let them know what the process is going to be like. It really helps reduce any fears or worries or anxieties. Another aspect is that it's it's low pressure. It's always in their hands. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if they go and get a hearing test, and they actually say like, oh, I actually resonated with this audiologist, or I actually do think I want to do something in person. It's always up to the consumer. It always is up to the consumer. But sometimes in some clinics, it'll feel very high pressure, or you're right there. And so some patients
intimidating.
They felt very vulnerable or under the gun. And that's one of the reasons why I created BLUEMOTH too, is I just really want people to feel empowered. I know I keep saying empowered, but that's such a key part of how I want consumers to feel when they're engaging with BLUEMOTH, is that they are in control, that they are empowered, that they are respected to make the choice of how they want to engage with their hearing healthcare, and that we are just a facilitator in that. So I think that's pretty important for fundamentally why I created BLUEMOTH.
Absolutely. So what do you think is in the future for online hearing healthcare? Like what other things do you think will become available to online hearing healthcare? What other things do you think you will be able to do, or is there kind of a limit right now? Like what does that kind of look like?
Yeah, so I am hopeful that there's going to be more progress and changes with the hearing aid manufacturers. They are already so advanced. And so, it blows my mind sometimes, even thinking back, 14 years ago when I graduated with my doctorate, to what the hearing aids could do and what they can do now. It's just insane.
It's insane. It's crazy.
So it's amazing for me to nerd out and geek out on that. But it's also amazing for me because patients' experiences are so much more positive now. But there are still limitations in the things that I'm able to do as an audiologist and control via telehealth. And so I'm hopeful that the amount of features and fine tuning and programming and changes that I can do remotely are going to continue to increase and improve. So that's one. Another limitation that I'm always really transparent about is that there's something called real ear measures. It's a verification process that we do in our clinics. It's the gold standard of making sure that you've calibrated the hearing aids properly for the actual individual anatomy of an individual per ear. That's something that we cannot do via telehealth at this moment. And so I always like to be very transparent about where BLUEMOTH shines and where we're able to give benefits above and beyond. But I think it's also really important to share, where there's limitations. And at the moment, that's not a calibration or a verification that we can perform remotely. What is nice is that can still be done, in an office, provided to us, and we can make tweaks and adjustments from there. But I'm hopeful that maybe that's a feature that we'll be able to see in the future. Another thing is just the ability to be able to, see more clearly the actual hearing aid, to be able to do otoscopy looking in the ear, things that we're not able to necessarily do when we're not physically with you.
Right. And then, I think one of the biggest things that both myself and you are trying to do is just, in general, break down stigmas surrounding hearing loss, hearing aids, and ultimately just getting people to try them. And that's really is one of the big things. It's just BLUEMOTH is really just allowing people to get into a pair of hearing aids and try them. If they've never tried them before, and they try them and they love them, then great. That's someone else that's now wearing a set of hearing aids. So, which is awesome, so.
Well, and there's just so much research to show the benefits of getting, amplification and correction for your hearing loss sooner rather than later. The fact that it keeps your neural integrity strong, the acoustic pathway is strong. And so if BLUEMOTH and Undefeated and, other people like ourselves that are, trying to break down the stigma and move people forward with proper treatment at a younger age, I think it's just going to be a radical transition and just overall how people view themselves, their sense of confidence and identity. What was exciting was earlier today, 2 of my staff members were here and they were photographing some new technology. And soon on the website, you're going to see not only do we have different manufacturers, but different form factors, different styles. So,
awesome.
We have the Rick behind the ear, but one of them, it's this new product called the Signia Silk. This thing is so incredibly small. They took it with them. I wish I had it so I could show you. Literally, she put it in her ear and she's like, this thing is so tiny and it has this little removal line. And she's like, thank God it has this removal line. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd be able to get it out.
It'd get lost.
And I think that's one of the things is being able to have that choice, whether you want it to be completely invisible. I also am a big advocate of the really colorful ones because,
absolutely.
I want to be able to have people show it off loud and proud. But I like the fact that there's choices regardless of whether you want it to be discreet or out loud.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right, well,
we're close to time.
Yes.
But I'm glad we got to chat a little bit, and I would love to schedule another one where I could actually ask you questions.
Yes.
Share a little bit about how it feels to be on the other side, to be the consumer, to be the patient, and what
talk about my experience.
Your experience has been, and what people should expect.
Yes. And then we will hopefully get the technical difficulty sorted out so we can do it live as well and actually have people jump in and ask questions as well. That'd be awesome. So
it wasn't meant to be today. It wasn't. That's okay. I think we made the most of it, and I'm glad I got to chat with you. Always a pleasure to see you. And
absolutely. And then we're racing next year as well, which is awesome.
You want to share a little bit about that real quick?
Full season of racing. We'll be live on TV across the country. We'll be doing lots of awesome stuff at the track, handing earplugs out to people. It's going to be awesome. So I'm super happy that BLUEMOTH is coming on board with that, and so we can get some, do some awesome things next year. It's going to be fun. I can't wait.
Yeah, it will be fun. And I'm super excited that we'll have hearing protection to hand out, advocate that as well, so people can take care of their hearing.
For sure.
So we're taking care of them on both sides.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Melanie, thank you very much.
You
Great
too.
to speak to you.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.